Welcome to Just Mitchin. I'm Mitchin. I'm your host. No Abe today, but I got John Bigos. He's our new baseball expert. So we're going to be previewing the MLB today, even though like opening days right now as we're watching the Nats Yankees in the rain delay. John, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Oh,
I watched a video this morning, this afternoon with Blake. It was pretty sick. You know, having that opportunity must be pretty special. And then you follow that up with the baseball expert. You know, it's kind of big shoes to fill, big celebrity to follow. So we'll do the best we can, right? We're gonna have fun.
hey, man, we're
This is
going to
the
have
first time I've ever
fun.
done anything. First time I've ever done anything like this, so it should be fun. I'm excited.
Oh, we'll have tons of fun. And like knowing you, I know you're prepared and everything. For the audience, this is the first. John and I have actually been talking on Twitter for like 6-7 months maybe, and this is the first time we're talking face to face, which is really cool. But we're gonna jump right into it like always, and we're gonna start with division picks with baseball. I've got with the NL West, my top team. I think everybody's gonna go with the Dodgers. But it might be a little rocky now. Kershaw's on the DL. I'm shocked they didn't bring up Lux, but that's because their service time manipulation. That's what I totally think it is. But they've got big bats in that lineup. I think Bellinger has a chance to become the MVP again. But their pitching's questionable with Kershaw out, and then you have Price sitting out. Does Dustin May's getting a start tonight? What do you think about that?
Well, so the Kershaw thing is huge, right? Because you're playing on that guy to go out and give you innings and be the horse. And then, piggybacking that with Buehler, and they're saying that Buehler might not be ready to go out and give, a full effort or pitch a full game. So where do you stand with that? And then you're bringing in May. So he's your sixth starter. You've already mentioned Price not being there.
Right.
So, in a 60-game season, the gap closed a little bit, right? You'd have to think that the gap has closed a little bit with Arizona and San Diego as well. Just looking at it,
No,
are the Giants good enough to win tonight? Maybe, but
maybe. I mean, they're projected. RotoChamp has their projecting starting rotation being May, Julio Urias, Ross Stripling, Alex Wood, Walker Buehler. May could be good. Like, we don't really know. We saw a little bit of what he did last year coming up, but Urias is decent. I think putting him in the two is putting a lot of pressure on him. We know Stripling can be consistent, and when Alex Wood's on, he's on. I mean, look at what he did last year in Cincinnati.
Health is always a question with Wood, right? You have to look at his health. Is he, he could go out tomorrow and then miss the rest of the season, pitch. So the depth of the rotation probably is the biggest question mark. They're gonna score a ton of runs, right? You get Mookie Betts and Bellinger, Turner. It's depth of the lineup. Will wear the other staff out.
I'm looking at their lineup right now.
You're gonna have to score a ton. They're gonna have to score runs. They're gonna give them up. If Kershaw's, we've been down this road with him in the back before.
Right, he'll miss a lot.
Like I said, if Buehler can't go, and give you 6 or 7 innings out the gate, and you said he's the fifth starter right now for them.
Yeah, it's a 5.
It's not even like they're bumping him up so he can pitch today. Like he's just not ready to go yet. So it's got to be. It's a question mark. At the very least, it's a question mark. Are they good enough to make the playoffs? Obviously, right? With 16 teams now, they're going to make the playoffs. But are they going to run away and win 37 games? I don't know.
We didn't even talk about that. I forgot to mention that at the beginning of the show. Baseball 16-game expansion. We'll talk about that later on towards the end. But I'm looking at their lineup, like you said, like scoring runs. Mookie Betts, Max Muncy, Justin Turner, Cody Bellinger, Corey Seager, A.J. Pollock, Jock Peterson, Will Smith, and Chris Taylor. Plus, you have the universal DH, so the pitcher doesn't have to hit.
And they can give guys days off by putting them in the DH spot. Bellinger or Turner doesn't have to play every day. Turner's another guy. With the health, you never know. But Turner doesn't have to play every day in the field. They can just you're going to go just swing the bat.
Right.
That's a big thing. It's a huge thing for the National League teams this year. That DH.
That team's nuts. And then my number 2 team is the Padres. Who do you have at number 2?
I have the Diamondbacks.
Okay. What do you like about the Diamondbacks?
I still think the Padres might be a year away. I still think they have a lot of youth. Everybody loves Tatis. He played 80 games last year. He didn't play a full season. He was exciting when he played, but it's just something about Arizona. They're always tough. They're like that team that always, like last year they won like 85 games last year. The Arizona Diamondbacks won 85 games. Let's say they just kind of sneak up on you, I think. They brought in Madison Bumgarner. We know his story. So I like. It's a toss-up.
Their rotation's not bad.
I went back and forth with those two, the Diamondbacks and the Padres, and I flipped the coin. I said Diamondbacks.
Oh man, I mean, I think it's going to be very close for those two teams. I mean, their projected rotation for the Diamondbacks is Bumgarner, Robbie Ray, who I think is such an underrated pitcher, and it's probably because he's always. I mean, last year Zach Greinke was the one. He's never been able to really get shown as an ace. I think he has the potential. You have Zach Gallen, Luke Weaver, and Merrill Kelly.
The question with Ray, and I only know this, I don't watch a ton of Arizona Diamondbacks games on the East Coast, but right. The question always with him is he just walks a ton of batters. He gets in that funk where he'll walk 5 or 6 guys, and he'll give up a 3-run home run, and he might have 11 strikeouts, but he gave up 6 runs because he had a bad inning where he walked too many guys. That's always been the question. His stuff is outstanding, but that's always been the question mark for Robbie Ray.
There's a lot of strikeouts, but he does get those walks up. And then their lineup, because they brought in Starling Marte, then you got Kendall Marte, then you got Escobar, which I think if there's anybody to trade on this team as like a trade piece, could be Escobar. Definitely think that. You got David Peralta, Christian Walker, Cole Calhoun, Nick Ahmed, Jake Lamb. Oh, he's DHing? I'm glad that they're giving him more of a chance because they really pushed him back last year. And then Carson Kelly catching, who I've grew up playing against Carson Kelly, which is kind of cool.
So it's not a bad lineup. They're a solid team. They're a solid team all around.
Where's their bullpen? And their bullpen's solid too. I mean, Bradley's going to come out there in the 9s, get the saves. He throws super hard. But the rest of it, Chafon, Guerrero, Young. I mean, they've got a little bit of a bullpen. We'll see where they go. I think their biggest thing might be their bullpen, just because the only name I'm really getting out there is Archie Bradley. Some of these names, I'm like Hector Rendon, I recognize, but I think he's on the back end of his career. And then
most of those guys that are in that bullpen too are guys that were there last year too. When they were an 85-win team, so there might not be household names, but they're I think the best word is for the Diamondbacks is they're just solid. Like there's no major hole. You could argue that without Kershaw and Buehler being maybe diminished to start the year, their starting staff is better than the Dodgers. Remember, could you make that argument?
Yeah, you could 100% make that argument. And the question I was just about to ask you is, we know that Bumgarner is definitely – he's a horse, and he's very he doesn't seem like he's a fun teammate. Do you think that's going to affect the way that the Diamondbacks play and stuff? Because that team seems like, with the players I was just looking at, a little bit loose, and Bumgarner's the opposite.
Right. Well, we know him as a winner, right? So he's probably no nonsense in the clubhouse. He wants to win. He wants the ball every 4th or 5th day, and he's going to go out and give you seven solid innings every time he goes out. He wasn't great last year, but the Giants were horrendous.
Well, and he wasn't happy, and then he got. Yeah, I think he's not been happy with the Giants for a while, and they weren't letting him live his life because the guy likes to go out there, rope some cattle, ride his dirt bike.
He fell off the back of his truck the one year and broke his arm or whatever.
Right.
So he wants to go.
He's a cowboy.
Yeah. So I mean, I think. They gave him a lot of money. They gave him a lot of money to give them innings and lead the staff.
No, definitely. And then going over to where I think the number 2 team is the Padres. I just like this team because it's young. It looks young. It's going to be fun. And their pitching rotation, you got Paddock, Lamet, Garrett Richards, Zach Davies, and Joey – I can't ever say his name – Joey Lelucci. I like Paddock. Yeah, Paddock's a stud. He's a cowboy. I think he'll become a horse. Lamette's kid, I think they just pulled up. Garrett Richards, if Garrett Richards isn't hurt, pitches decently well, and we know what Zach Davies is going to give you, what he's been giving Milwaukee for the last couple of years. Their lineup looks. See, I just like him because they're young. Because you got Tatis, Grissom. I mean, the only thing I can ever think about when I see Grissom is how he couldn't feel the proper ball.
The air in the ninth.
Against
Was it the
Milwaukee.
ninth inning?
Yeah, I thought my dad was gonna like have an aneurysm. Then you got Tommy Pham came over from Tampa Bay. He's a solid guy. He doesn't get enough credit because he got his credit in St. Louis, but he's kind of been playing in small markets as Tampa Bay and now in San Diego. Eric Hosmer, Will Myers, Josh Naylor DHing, Jurickson Profar, and Francisco Mejia. Francisco Mejia, I remember he was supposed to come up and be.
He's been around like forever, right? That guy.
Yeah, he's supposed to be a top prospect, but he just can't put it together. I'm looking at it at some stats, and I think these are what they're projecting his stats to be. Is it hit 263, have an OPS of 754. I mean, they're not great. Chris, I think this team, they're I can't talk right now. Their pitching rotation looks pretty decent.
They got, the other that trade you mentioned with Tommy Pham, they got Pagan from Tampa Bay, who was lights out for Tampa Bay last year. To put at the back end of that bullpen. So
their bullpen is solid. I'm looking at this bullpen: Kirby Yates and Emil Pagan, who I've seen a lot because he was a Mariner, and then Drew Pomerantz. You got Cal Control, Craig Stammerman, Matthew Stram, who's a big card collector. You got Tim Hill, Pierce Johnson. Yeah, this just keep going down. Their bullpen's probably the strongest thing they have besides their youth. I think their rotation, it's good. It's not great. You've got a lot of 3s and 4s. I don't think you can call Paddock an ace yet because he just hasn't done it at the major league level. Does he have the potential? I think so from what we've seen. But
the other thing too, the other thing that's with the Padres, and you look at them compared to the other teams. We're looking at what they have right now on their lineup, the 30-man roster, right?
Right.
But they have a ton of guys, on the 30-man roster that aren't on the roster, right? That the satellite team that can come up. They have like Mackenzie Gore, who's a stud. Yeah. So they have some other pieces that when the need arises that they can call up guys.
No, exactly.
So their depth 1 through 60 may be better than any of the other teams in that, the Dodgers are 1 to 10. The Dodgers are the best. But when you start expanding it down to the last man available, they probably have the deepest of all the teams.
And we're going to see that this year, like more than ever, because guys are going to get hurt. People are going to catch COVID. I don't know what we're going to see. This 60 games is going to be absolutely insane. I'm so excited for it. It's going to be a flash in the pan. Now, as my number 4 team in the division, I have the Colorado Rockies. I'm probably guessing you have them too.
I have the Giants.
Really? The Giants are terrible.
I know they are. So are the Rockies, though.
I mean, the Rockies at least have probably the best third baseman in the MLB right now is Nolan Arenado.
I got it.
Charlie Blackmon can hit. Trevor Story can hit. David Dahl can hit. Daniel Murphy can hit when he wants to.
But they all can hit in Colorado. I could maybe go out and hit in Colorado.
That's true.
No, that's probably not. That's probably not. They have no pitching at all.
No, I mean, Herman Marquez, I think he'd be a better pitcher if he didn't pitch in Colorado. John Gray, Cal Freeland, and Antonio Cinstella. Jeff Hoffman, yeah, their pitching's not great, and their bullpen is an absolute nightmare, especially last year. Their bullpen was terrible. Wade Davis had an ERA of in the 5s.
And they just dumped though. They dumped Jake McGee.
Yeah, they jumped Jake McGee, which I was shocked. I mean, he's a solid lefty. Probably just wasn't getting there. And then you look at the Giants. The Giants lineup, you got Brandon Crawford, Donovan Solando, Mike
I'm not disagreeing with you that they're bad.
I know. I'm just letting you know.
In a 60-game season, somebody's got to be last.
Yep, right.
And I bet you if we go through all 6 divisions, I bet you we all have the same last place team in every division. So this is just to be a little bit different because this is the last thing I did.
Well, we're going through every division. I mean, they're the Giants. rotation, I like their two. I like Cueto. I like Samardzija. You got Kevin Gassman, Drew Smiley, and Tyler Anderson. I definitely think it could go either way for that last place spot. But again, it's 60 games. I mean, you get hot off the bat, that it could just start
The last
rolling.
place team in that division is probably what, like 23, 24 wins. So
Yeah, probably.
I mean, it's not. I mean, it's not out of the question for the Giants to win like 26 games.
But they have to play the West. I mean, they have to play the AL West. So
right.
That's kind of where I'm like, you're gonna get.
They're gonna beat up on the Mariners.
Yeah, that's who we know. Hey, I have full faith that the Mariners could get a run. Young team. We've seen what young teams have done in the past. They get excited and they get going. So then NL Central. This is the black and blue division. They're gonna beat up on each other. I definitely think 4 of the 5 teams are going to have 31, 32 wins. I bet they'll all go 5-5. My number 1 team is the Reds.
I have the Reds also. I have the Reds too.
They've made some great pickups in free agency with getting Mike Moustakas to play second. And then you got Nick Castellanos in the outfield. Their starting lineup. Oh God, I'm not gonna be able to pronounce this.
Shogo Akiyama.
Yeah, there you go.
And he's gonna be the Rookie of the Year in the National League.
You think so?
Yes.
We'll talk about that coming. I've got a guy I like. Joey Votto, Suarez. That guy just hits massive home runs. Moustakas, Castellanos, Jesse Winker, Freddie Galvis, Nick Senzel, who's a rookie. He's a stud. I like some of what you saw coming out of him last year. And then Tucker Barnhart. Their rotation is pretty solid. It's probably one of the better ones they're 4 pitchers. You got Sonny Gray, Luis Castillo, Trevor Bauer, Wade Miley, and then Anthony Descalzi is hurt. So I like Sonny Gray. When Sonny Gray, and I keep saying this about everybody when they're on the top of their game, but when we saw him in the Athletics, he was really good. He went to the Yankees. It didn't work out for him.
He was awesome last year. He was awesome. He was lights out last year for the Reds.
Yeah, absolutely lights out. Castillo can be lights out. Trevor Bauer, I like Trevor Bauer. I like him as a person, and I like the game he brings. And I think he brings a lot of fun to this clubhouse. This clubhouse has a lot of guys that they got the youth movement with some of these younger guys, and then they have the veterans, the Joey Vottos and the Suarez, the Moustakas. And Joey Votto, are we going to see Joey Votto get on base a lot of normal Joey Votto, or is it going to be an older Joey Votto that we've seen in recent years with his decline?
It looks like he aged about 10 years last year. He just was not. He was bad last year. And you could always count on him to get on base.
Right.
And by getting on base, he would score runs, but he wasn't even getting on base last year. So that was, and for what they're paying him, he's got a huge contract. So,
and you got Aquino on the bench.
He didn't even make the roster.
Did he not make the roster?
I don't think they even put him in the no.
Okay, because they have this on their. Oh, it's just their 40-man. All right, now I'm starting.
Yeah, he's not on the opening day. He's like one of those guys that could be called up because they're so deep in the outfield. You had mentioned the names.
Yeah.
They're so deep, and that guy hit 15 home runs in a month and a half last year. I mean, I think that he was exposed at the end.
Yeah, I think it was service time manipulation once again. I think a lot of these teams they don't want to lose those years of the easy, low money that they can pay these guys. Because Aquino, if he does what we only saw such a small sample size of what he can do, if he does that for a full season, does it a couple times, the guy's he's going to be one of the top paid outfielders in the league. Their bullpen's good. You got Rafael Iglesias, Michael Lorenz, who can also hit. So I wonder if we'll see him DH at all, because I know he's kind of one of those guys that can do both. Amir Garrett, Pedro Stroop, their bullpen's deep. This team is
solid. They're good. They're a playoff team. They're one of the 8 best teams in the league, right, in the National League. So they're a playoff team.
Right, they're definitely. I would say about the NL Central, I don't think there's a great team in this division. There are a bunch of good teams.
Yeah.
I think they're gonna just battle, beat each other up. And we'll see. It'll be a lot of fun baseball. And then my number 2 team is the Cardinals. The Cardinals are a team that can always find a way to win. It's a good built organization. And on top of that, they have that weird playoff like magic that they pull out of their butts all the time.
Yeah, they'll
But
be the team that gets in at 29-31 and plays the number one seed, the Dodgers or whatever, and beats them 2 out of 3 and goes to the World Series under 500. Right, that's that team. But Jack Flaherty at the top of the rotation, stud. The Goldschmidt anchor in the lineup, like they're again, like you said it, they're not great, but they're very good, and it's that Cardinals mojo that always seems to come out once every couple of years. You're like, the Cardinals, they won the World Series,
yeah, they won the
So
World Series. I mean, last year they made it to the NLCS.
right,
I gotta put this in real quick. Abe's a huge Cardinals fan, so I know he's liking us talking about this right now. When he hears it. But do you have them number 2, or where do you have them instead of
no,
in
I
the
have
division?
the Cardinals too, but
Okay, we got that
I
the
think
same.
1 through 4 could be flipped.
Right.
At the end of the list, 1 through 4 could be flipped.
Because you got Colton Wong, Matt Carpenter, Paul Goldschmidt, Paul DeYoung, Yadi Molina, Dexter Fowler, Tyler O'Neill, Tommy Edman, and Harrison Bader. That is a solid lineup. But you got a mix of
and I don't want to cut you off, but the one guy I didn't even mention is Dylan Carlson. They're huge on Dylan Carlson, right? If day 6 does he get called up, so they can. You've been saying it all the whole time. Manipulate service time. Day 6 he gets called up. They love that guy. So that's another bat to add to that. Pretty good lineup.
Especially Harrison Bader can't hit. He's a Kevin Pillar. The guy makes ridiculous catches. He just doesn't hit the ball well. But guys like that can develop into it. I mean, Yadi Molina is a perfect example. When he first came up, he wasn't a hitter. Now he's a feared bat in the lineup. Their starters, Flaherty, Wainwright, Hudson, Michaelis, and Carlos Martinez. I like that they brought Martinez up as a starter. I know he's had his ups and downs and has gone back into the bullpen at times. But the guy has filthy stuff. I think it's just a whole entire head game for him. I like Dakota Hudson, young arm, definitely still proving himself. Wainwright, you're going to get solid 5 innings. I don't think he can go 6-7 like he's done in the past. But I don't think he needs to anymore. But the bullpen they have is, once again, it's not a great bullpen. It's a decent bullpen. Andrew Miller, I've loved Andrew Miller.
I love Andrew Miller too. Mm-hmm.
Comes out, does his stuff. But they have a big thing. Gallegos isn't pitching this year. He's on the DL. He was a big part of that bullpen last year.
Yeah, so he would come out and throw a gas, and because Miller struggled a little bit last year. So you hope you get the Miller from 16, 17, 18 for them to
he's getting older.
But they gave him a big money contract last year. Didn't really live up to it, but he's got a pedigree that we know what he's capable of doing. So
he showed that he's a winner.
Yeah, they're
who do you have as number 3?
So I have the Cubs.
Do you have the Cubs?
And
I have the Cubs as well. Yes, I have the Cubs. Why do you like the Cubs?
The only reason I have the Cubs over the Brewers is because I think the starting rotation of the Cubs is significantly better than what the Brewers have. Lester, Darvish. We know what Darvish can be when Darvish is on. Hendricks. I just think that those guys are better than what Milwaukee has. And I think a lot of people have written off the Cubs. They're saying like the Cubs are like this. They're going to be like horrendous. I just don't see it. I think that they're you still have Javi Baez. You have Chris Bryant. You have Rizzo. You have Schwarber at DH. Like you got talent that you can. They're not done. Like I don't think their window is completely closed yet.
No, it's another
come on.
It's another solid lineup that any team would want. Chris Bryant, Anthony Rizzo, Baez, Schwarber, Contreras, Hayward, Ian Happ, J.C. Kipnis, and Almora. That's a solid lineup right there. Those are guys, and I like how the NL Central has a lot of young and a lot of old, like mixed together, and I think that's what makes a good ball club. Because these older players, I mean, what is it? It's like 65 games and 60
games in 66 days. Yeah.
Well, Kipnis isn't going to be able to play every day. His body just won't allow it at this point.
And they're another team that they have guys, they have reinforcements that they can call up if necessary.
Nico Horner, they got Bodie.
Huge on Nico Horner, so they have guys that they can bring up, to reinforce if somebody gets sick or somebody gets injured. They have parts available to help them out. So that. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. So they're
they're that top third of the lineup. Bryant, Rizzo, Baez. I mean, it's pretty damn good. Like.
And then Schwarber, when he's not facing lefties, I mean, that guy hits bombs.
And he doesn't have to play the field now.
Right, because
he doesn't have to play the field.
Terrible
just go
outfielder.
hit. Just go swing the bat.
Perfect year. Their bullpen, I mean, I like their bullpen. If Craig Kimbrell can be Craig Kimbrell 2 years ago, last year I think because he didn't start playing until July because he he's a free agent and nobody was going to sign him. He's got the nasty stuff. He has the ability to get saves. I still think he still has that high to mid 90s fastball. That's nasty knuckle curve. But can he put it together? Or is he just going to have another horrendous season like last year?
Well, when it's interesting because nobody knows. This season is the great unknown. So are the teams that have the best bullpens and the deepest bullpens the teams that are going to be the most equipped to win it this year? It's the teams that have the best starting rotation with the guys that go deepest in ball games. I think if you have that bullpen and the guy at the back end of the bullpen, we didn't get to him yet, but the Brewers with Hader, like that guy could come in the fifth inning and give you 2 solid innings and shut down the middle of a team's lineup for those 2 innings. He doesn't always pitch, the ninth inning. So those bullpen guys, I think, are going to be very important.
Well, and I think now, like the way baseball is going, especially this season, you're going to see I think your best arm's not your closer anymore. I think it's the guy who can come in the 6th, 7th, or the 7th and 8th and hold down the main part of that lineup. And then you have a good reliever. I don't think it's your best who comes in and calls it out at the end. Like I totally forgot with Cincinnati, they got Amir Garrett. That guy is another lefty who I think can come in and pitch 2 innings and shut down a team's lineup. But going over to the Brewers, it's another solid lineup. You got Sogard, Kane, Yelly, Ryan Braun, Keston Hira, Justin Smoke, Avisail Garcia, Omar Narvaez, and Orlando Arcia. They probably have one of the better hitting catchers in this division. Narvaez was great for the Mariners last year. I was super sad that we lost them. But Kane's great.
Yelich in a 60-game season, he's going to win. He's going to win 7 or 8 games by himself, right? Just his presence in the lineup. I think the biggest question for them though is just their starting rotation.
I mean, Ryan Braun, I think he finally got this perfect position now. He's on the back end of his career. He's going to be able to DH. Doesn't have to play the field anymore. And I think for doing 60 games in 66 days, he might be able to DH every day. It's because it's not that much. DHing's not super taxing it's taxing on the body, but it's not as taxing as having to go out there and play third base every day or first base.
Right.
They're starters.
But they're also going to want to give, 60 games in 66 days, you're going to give Yelich a break. So,
right.
And Braun, they said something with Braun today about he might not even be ready to go yet out the gate. So that's a I saw this thing yesterday. It was interesting to me. They said, and this has nothing to do with the Brewers, or this is just a statement in general, a 7-game losing streak during a 60-game season is equivalent to losing 19 games in a 162-game season. So, if you're losing – if you lose a big piece of your lineup, and I don't know how big of a piece Braun is, but if he doesn't play the first 4 games, that impacts 60 games. Or it might not impact 162, but it's going to impact a 60-game season.
I mean, I would say Braun, like, as somebody who's grew up, like, watching the Brewers with my dad being a diehard Brewers fan, I would say Ryan Braun – he's probably the heart of the team. I mean, he has to be their captain.
Yeah.
I mean, Yelich is the best player, but Ryan Braun's been there since 2007, 2008, I want to guess. Their starters
7, I think, yeah,
are not great. You got Woodford, Corbin Burns, Freddie Peralta, Adrian Hauser, and Justin Lindblom. Josh
Lindblom. They just brought him over from Korea.
He was the MVP in the KBO since I've watched so much of that. We'll see if he can go to the major league level. I mean, it's a completely different game. I'm sorry, the KBO is AAA, maybe AA. I don't think it's great baseball.
It's Woodruff. Burns is okay, and then after that, it's
You don't
Roll the
know.
dice. It's a huge roll of dice after those two.
I mean, they've
So when
got
you're
3 good arms though in this bullpen. They've got
right,
Hader, Suter, and Corey Nebel, and those are guys are all guys who are proven. They've all done everything they need to do to keep their positions in the big league. Looking at their bench real quick, Luis Arias is hurt. Brock Holt, Manny Pena. They don't. I mean, they have Ben Gamble, Logan Morrison. They don't have Ryan Healy. They don't have a great bench. They have a bench that has played. I mean, I don't like it. And then, of course, we have the Pirates, both in the fifth. The Pirates are they're
the Pirates are
rebuilding.
yeah.
They've got
They have
they've
Josh
got
Bell.
talent.
They got Josh Bell.
Brian Reynolds is really good. He
And
came out and hit the ball pretty well, but the rest of it, it's
Newman,
not
they have
pretty.
Newman, right? Kevin Newman, and they're just it's that we're gonna wait for a dozen years for the Pirates to be relevant again. They'll be the back end. They'll be the back. They'll trade Bell at some point, whether that's in season or in the off season this year to replenish what they have in the farm. Their staff's not that good, but just I mean I don't know how much time you should spend on the Pirates just because it's the Pirates, and I think we know that they're getting fifth in the division. But if we had 1 through 4 the same, if you flipped it and the Brewers won, the Reds won fourth, would you be surprised?
No, not at all.
You know, any one of those 4 teams could win the division.
It was a tough one to do. I'm sitting there like trying to figure this out, and it was kind of like roll the dice and see who's going to do it. Now we're going into your division, the NL East. Who you got? Who's your number one team?
All right, so I had the Mets. I went out. Now wait. I had the Mets, and when I was doing this early this afternoon, or later, this morning,
I had the Mets at 2.
I can't do it. So I had the Mets, and I flipped it, and I did pick the Phillies.
Homer.
I'm a homer. Yes, I'm a homer. So I had the Phillies 1, the Mets 2.
Okay, I got the Mets 2. Where do you
I
got
have the Braves 3.
Nats 4?
And the Nats 4.
Marlins 5. All right, so we've literally done this. Let's hit up your Phillies. Why are you liking your Phillies to win the East?
I just love the lineup.
Scary.
Last year when McCutchen was healthy before he tore his ACL, the depth of the lineup was just awesome. And then you go and you have McCutchen at 1, and you're going to hit Harper at 2, and you're going to hit JT 3, and then you have Hoskins 4.
They have Bruce 4.
Oh, they have Bruce 4?
Yeah.
Because he's going to DH.
5.
Bruce is going to DH.
Yep.
And then Segura's hitting 6th. And,
Scotty's hurt, though.
Segura with no alcohol. He cut alcohol off his diet. He lost a lot of weight. He's looking spry in the field. He can hit. He makes a lot of contact. They're just deep. I mean, the only position that they have that's not set is center field. Then they're going to platoon Roman Quinn, and they're going to with Adam Hazley, and I just think they just have so much depth in the line. But after Nola and Wheeler, and who knows what Wheeler you're getting, Arrieta,
I mean, Arrieta, he's shown that he's good.
Yeah, but he hasn't been good in a while.
Yeah.
He's definitely shown his age. And what the thing with Arrieta, like when he was in Baltimore, he was awful. When he started his career in Baltimore, he was awful. They traded him to the Cubs, and he was lights out for 2 or 3 years. Like he single-handedly, won a lot of games for the Cubs. And I feel when there's a player like that and the team lets them go, that team knows why they're letting a guy go. Right. A guy who's dominant like that, and then they gave him $75 million, and he just hasn't been very good. And then Eflin 4, he's another one of those. And he had some starts last year. He was lights out, and then other times you're like, what is this guy doing? And then it looks like Velasquez won the 5th spot, and he's the same thing. His second career start with the Phillies had 16 strikeouts. We haven't seen that guy again. But they have Spencer Howard. I'm really excited about Spencer Howard in the minor leagues. They were talking about maybe bringing him up for the 6th or 7th game.
That's what I heard.
Just in the rotation. But if Nola's 2018 Nola, Phillies win the division. If he's 2019, the Phillies might be 4th in the division.
What about this
Uh,
bullpen? Because I'm looking, Harris is hurt. You got Suarez is hurt. You
Harris is
got
hurt.
Tommy Hunter is hurt. So who's
Yeah.
closing out games? Is it going to be Pivot?
So Hunter did just come back. Hunter's pitching now.
Okay.
Who's going to close him out? That's a great question. It's going to have to be by committee. It will probably. I don't know what Girardi's thinking, but that's the other X factor for the Phillies I like is Girardi. He does know how to manage a bullpen. That's been one of his big things. In a 60-game season, his ability to manage the bullpen might help them in the long run. But yes, I am a little bit of a homer, but I just think they have. I think their lineup, and I think Harper, comfortable in Philadelphia, has bought it. He's all on board. I'm going to give him the year to. And listen, everybody says he was overrated. He was bad last year. Guy hit 35 home runs with 110 RBIs and 100 walks. Like he wasn't bad.
He's not bad. He's a slow starter though.
See, he's one of the. Actually, that's not true. He's one of the fastest stars.
Really?
Yeah, one of the fast stars. It's the middle of the months that hurt him. So if he starts fast, it's like his 2-month window. We might be pretty good. And then Hoskins, you know how I feel about Hoskins. He's
your boy.
He's my boy, but he's got to hit better than 230. I mean, but he walks a ton. He gets on base, but he's got to swing the bat. We need him to hit, driving runs.
I mean, at this point with the analytics in baseball, I don't really care about batting averages anymore when I'm looking at guys. I'm all about the OPS. If you can get on base, who cares? If you hit 230, but you get on base 40% of the time.
Yeah, but him hitting 230 means he's not driving the guys in front of him too.
Right, because that's
so it's the analytics, like it's a fine line, but I still like if you're hitting 200 but you walk 100 times, I mean there's value to that, but you got one hit every 5 times you came to the plate. Like there's still, I know, like batting average, I guess I sound like an old timer here, but batting average does still have value.
Right. A little bit. What do you think is the Phillies' biggest weakness?
Their bullpen.
Or bullpen.
I think they're pitching in general, but I think the bullpen is really there, and that's been the question with them for a couple of years now.
Is Robertson still there?
He is, but he's not. I don't think he's going to be ready. He had him and Dominguez with the shoulders and the elbows.
Right.
So their bullpen's bad, but they have, they're going to score a ton. They're like the Dodgers. They're going to score a ton of runs. They should score a ton of runs. And if they score runs, that's how they're going to beat you. They're going to outscore. It's going to be like the Phillies of 7, 8, and 9 when they were just putting up a ton of runs.
Those are good Phillies.
Putting up a ton of runs. And then, they had Cole Hamels and a bunch of guys. They won a World Series with those teams. They didn't win when they had Lee and Halladay and Oswalt. They didn't win.
So sad that Halladay never got a ring.
Yeah, that one sucks.
Now you got the Mets. We got the Mets at number 2. That was a tough one for me. Like it's like Phillies, Mets. The only reason I didn't go with the Mets is because they're the Mets. They have a tendency to blow up. They have a tendency
find some way to do it.
They'll have a great team like they do this year, and they'll find a way to lose 10 games in a row. This is their lineup. You got McNeil, Pete Alonso, Robinson Cano, Cespedes. Dude, Cespedes is his diet looks good. He's gotten big. You got Conforto, J.D. Davis, Wilson Ramos, Brandon Nimmo, and Rosario. That's a good lineup. That could be a lineup. Jeff McNeil is going to get on base for Pete Alonso to hit some bombs. I don't like Alonso hitting in the 2 spot. I'd rather have him hit in the 3 spot. But I don't like that. I like it. But they're 2, 3, and 4 are all home run hitters. Condone's he's a power hitter at this point in his career. Cespedes is long ball guy.
Cespedes doesn't have to play the field. That's a huge thing for him. If he doesn't have to run around, that's awesome for him.
He's DH.
Just swing the bat.
This is the best bullpen I think in baseball. Especially with Kershaw out. Well, not best bullpen in baseball. I'd say the best bullpen in the NL. With Kershaw out and Walker Buehler not ready for the Dodgers, DeGrom, Matz, Porcello, Walker, and Ramirez. DeGrom by himself makes this
right. That's why when I did this initially, I had the Mets 1 just because say what you want about Buehler and Kershaw, he's the best pitcher in the National League. I know Scherzer too, but I think that DeGrom has proven he's the best pitcher in the National League. Even though he might not get the win. But they're the same thing. They have a deep lineup. Their bullpen is better than the Phillies, but it's the Mets, so you always wait for the other shoe to drop at some point for them. It seems like it happens all the time. But DeGrom is good, and then
I think Betances was big for them, especially
and they lost Stroman. Stroman tore his calf, so he's going to be out for a while. So he's what? He's their 2. They don't have Syndergaard. They lost Wheeler. So they lost 3 of your 5 rotation members from last year, but you still have DeGrom.
And if DeGrom wasn't there, Syndergaard is an ace. I mean, that guy is filthy.
Right.
I want to see what Diaz is going to do. Edwin Sugar Diaz. When he was with the Mariners 2 years ago, he is lights out, best closer in baseball. Comes over to the Mets and he's atrocious. It's awful. He didn't look like himself.
Yeah, he didn't. He was not very good for them, and it was almost like every outing it was something with him. But he has proven it. He's proven what he can do. But it was only for a year, right? When he was with Seattle, that he did it for the 1 year.
Yeah, it was just 1 year. This is his rookie year.
So has he been kind of? But he's better than what the Phillies are throwing out in the 8th and 9th inning. So
yeah. Then we've both chosen the Braves. This is a team. I don't know how I feel about the Braves. They have the lineup. I don't like it. Their pitching, and I don't like their bullpen. Just like last year, I did not like their bullpen. I think if they had better starters, better bullpen, they would definitely be a team that would be fighting for it because their lineup's good. You got Acuna, Albies, Freddie Freeman's coming back from COVID, so we'll probably see him in Game 7 or 8. You got Marcell Ozuna, Matt Adams, Darno, Ender Encarnacion, Austin Riley, and Dansby Swanson. This is a big year for Dansby. I think this is a year Dansby needs to show that he was the number 1 overall pick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I would agree with that. And what Riley are you going to get too? Because Riley, same thing with we were talking about Aquino before. Riley came out and was hitting bombs the first month, and then hit under 200 after that. He was kind of exposed. So, if Riley is kind of somewhere in the middle, then that just adds to that lineup. But I'm with you on the rotation. A lot of people like Soraka. He's okay. We haven't really seen him do it. And then after that,
they're running
Cole
6 guys.
Is Cole Hamels ready to go? We don't know. Felix Hernandez opted out. So
that was big.
They had initially said they have these 10 starters, and are they 10 viable starters?
Soroka, Fry, Newcomb, Folkowitz, Kyle Wright, and Cole Hamels is their 6th. It looks like they're going to run a 6-man rotation.
So
we're going to see a lot of that.
It's not, or they're going to piggyback one another. Maybe somebody goes out for 3, and then the next guy comes in for 3 after them. But with Acuna, Freeman, Albies, they're going to win games, and I think the NL East is very similar to the NL Central. The big difference being the NL East has to play the AL East.
Right.
So you're playing the Yankees, you're playing the Rays, you're playing the Red Sox, you're playing the Blue Jays, and then hopefully when you play the Orioles,
you beat the Orioles.
You have to win those games against the Orioles. Whereas the NL Central, they're beating up one another, but then they got the Tigers, they got the Royals, and they got the Pirates. The Blue Jays are going to. We ain't got to, but the Blue Jays aren't a bad team.
No,
that you got to play.
They're a young team. I would say though, the Braves have the funnest player in baseball to watch. For in the NL, for me, I love watching Acuna play. He makes this game look fun. He makes this game look easy.
I'm an Acuna fan. He's an awesome player. He checks all the boxes. There was a little. Remember last year there was a little bit he doesn't hustle all the time. The guy had 41 home runs and stole 37 bases. He's 22 years old. Can we get off his back? He's okay. And the other thing that's great for the Braves with Acuna, and it has nothing to do with where they're going to finish in the division. He signed a $100 million contract before he even played a game, so he's not being paid anything compared to other guys with similar skill sets. So they have been able to spend money on other players. They brought in Cole Hamels and gave him $20 million. What if they had to pay Acuna? That might not have been the case. So
no, they made the right move to sign him right away. and not let him to get a service time or anything. Just give him a major league contract, see how it went. And I mean, so far it's been the smart move. The
And they did the
Nationals,
same thing with Albies too. They did the
right?
same thing. Albies, he was $40 million compared to Acuna, but they're two young guys are locked up. So
Albi's question is, can he hit right-handed pitching? He dominates lefties, but he struggles with those righties. He plays the second two bag. Going over, the Nationals are my team where I like them and then I don't like them. Their lineups, they're so old. That's the issue. I mean, you got Trey Turner, Adam Eaton, Howie Kendrick, old. Eric Thames, old. Starlin Castro, old. Carter Kieboom, that's my pick for the Rookie of the Year. And then you got
okay,
Young Gomes, old. Victor Robles, not old, but gets hurt. Michael Taylor, old. I mean, they don't have any. They don't. Only youth they have is Carter Kieboom. How many games is Howie Kendrick? Howie Kendrick was only supposed to play, I think, every other day, and now he's in a full-time role as their DH.
right. Well, then, and the thing with them, but again, this is similar to NL Central. If they won the division, you wouldn't be surprised.
No, they're pitching.
The thing for them right now is the big question mark is when does Soto have 2 negative tests so he can come back? Because he's arguably one of the top 5 offensive players in the National League. Right? You can make that argument.
No.
Bellinger, Yelly,
Acuna.
I'm not even putting Harper in the top 5 because those guys are better. But they still have Scherzer, they still have Strasburg,
They still have
and
Corbin.
if those guys and Corbin, so you have 3. You have the best rotation of the division.
Yeah.
Top to bottom. Even if your 5 might not be great, you have your 1, 2, and 3 are better than anybody else in the division.
And your 4 is good. It's Anibal Sanchez.
Right.
He's consistent. I mean, what is it? It's Eric Fetty. I don't know much about Eric Fetty. They have him going 1 and 2 on the year on this, for their predictions. I want to check out their bullpen because
that was their big question mark last year.
I mean, I like Doolittle. Doolittle, he's not they have him listed as a closer. I think he's a guy who can go and get 2 innings for you. They spent money on Will Harris, though. They signed him, another lefty arm, and then you got Daniel Hudson closing. So it's not they don't have a terrible bullpen either. It's not great, but it's going to get you there.
Their question is their lineup, right? You question their lineup, especially right now. If Soto misses 6 or 7 games, that's like missing 3 weeks of the season. And that's a huge loss if he doesn't play until if he today was opening day. If he doesn't play till next Friday for them, that's a huge chunk of games that he's missing.
Well, and they don't have Ryan Zimmerman in it.
Right, Zimmerman's not. Yeah. And then somebody else. They had 3 guys out there.
3 guys. Yeah, I'm trying to find it. It's not showing me. I can't. Oh, Wellington Castillo was catcher. One.
And
the
Joe
catcher
Ross.
and Joe Ross. So a starting pitcher, and I mean, Zimmerman's been the heart of that team for a long time.
He's the icon of the franchise.
Yeah. He's their number 1. Then now we're going into the Marlins. I think out of the NL teams, Miami could shock some people. They do have to play the NL. They do have to play the AL East, but this team's young. We don't know a lot about this team because we haven't seen a lot of these guys play. VR can hit. Anderson can hit. Dickerson's he's all right. He's Jesus Aguilar. He can hit home runs, but he's not consistent. So they have Garrett Cooper, Harold Ramirez, Isan Diaz, Jorge Alfaro, and Miguel Rojas. I'm going to say that's not a great lineup, but it's a lineup that might shock some people. I mean, I didn't think
it's a lineup of unknown.
Yeah,
that's what it is. It's a lineup that we don't know enough about to say, when we look at these other teams, we know they have Joey Votto, they have this guy, they have their names that we all know. We don't know it. We know Brian Anderson.
We know Jonathan VR.
He
earned that big contract that he signed with Miami because last year nobody was going to think that he was going to have a big season in Baltimore last year.
Right. So they have a couple pieces, but they're not better than in a 60-game season. They're not better than 50.
Their pitching. I mean, just because we have to go through it. Sandy Alcantara, Caleb Smith, Jose Urena, Pablo Lopez, and Hernandez, because I can't say his first name. I've
I
never heard
I
of
really
any of
like
these
Caleb
guys.
Smith. I really do like him. Watching the NL East, you get to see the Marlins a lot. Caleb Smith has some really good stuff.
He's a young guy, right?
20, he might be 27, 28 now. I think they got him from the Yankees in the Stanton deal. He's
Okay.
got good stuff. That's how they trade their guys. He's probably one of those guys that they would look to trade down the line, and if you're able to snag him, he does have good stuff. He's just playing in Miami where there's 10 people watching the game.
Yeah, you never know. I mean, it's tough to be because I'm a fan of a team that's always in the bottom of that of a tough division. They're gonna have to do a lot more than just have young talent. They need to get either develop a big name, which I'm not really seeing one at the moment, or sign a big name. I mean, they have that Derek Jeter money and that mentality, so we'll see what Derek Jeter can do with the team. Is he going to be a good player owner, or is he going to be Michael Jordan? We'll
Is
see.
he gonna wait to spend till they're good enough? I mean, with the teams in the division, they're not good enough to compete right now. Is it worth throwing money at that if you know that? Like, look, they signed Corey Dickerson, they signed Aguilar, they signed Villar.
Those are average bats.
Yeah, they're not going up against DeGrom and Nola and Scherzer and Strasburg. They're and the Braves lineup, but they're just not ready to compete. So,
No.
So I mean, one thing I did when I was looking at this going through, so with the playoff format, you and I were going back and forth earlier with this. So it looks like what it's going to be is the top 2 teams in each division make the playoffs.
Right.
And then there's going to be 2 wild cards, the 2 best records after that. So I have
3 teams in the Central and 3 teams from the East.
I don't have any else. I think the Central teams beat each other up, and they only get 2 teams.
Really? Maybe.
So I have the Phillies, Mets, and the Braves. The Braves, the wild card. The Reds and the Cardinals. The Dodgers, the Diamondbacks, and then the Padres.
Can't argue with that. I like it.
So then the other thing is, if we're looking at that, let's just hypothetically say the Dodgers are 38-22, and the Padres are the 8th team. The Dodgers play. There's a 3-game series in Dodger Stadium. The Padres against the Dodgers. Can the Padres go into Dodger Stadium and win 2 games? If you look back and you take a team that like the Dodgers who won 100 games last year, or the Twins who won 101 games last year, did they ever go in and have a series in their home stadium and lose 2 out of 3 games to a team that was under 500?
Yeah.
The answer is yes. So it's gonna be crazy. Like you could have like a World Series where
the Padres.
The eighth team in the league is playing the 7th team in the other league, and that's your World Series. It's because it's never happened. There's really no huge advantage, to win the division except you get those 3 home games. But with nobody in the stadium, what's the home field advantage? You get you bat last in the 9th inning. That's really the advantage.
I mean, by that time though, in November, we or October, November, we might be able to have some fans in it in some states. Like the Rangers are already pushing for it. What I've been reading.
But I wonder if Major League Baseball would say, you know what? If you can't have, why should the Rangers have fans and the people in California? It plays that kind of advantage thing. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what happens. But yeah, so 8 teams. I've been looking at a lot of like the prediction and everything, and they're like, oh, the Phillies are going to finish 4th in the NL East. If the Phillies can't make the playoffs with 8 teams from the league making the playoffs, then I don't know. I just don't know. I would lose a lot of hope. I give a lot of hope if that were the case.
But that's baseball, man. That's the thing why I'm a baseball fan. I think why you are. It's unpredictable. Last year we didn't think we were gonna have 4 or 5 teams have win 100+ games. It's never happened before. Every division winner, wasn't it almost every team that won their division won over 100 games?
The Dodgers, Indians, the Astros, and the Yankees, I think, right?
Yeah, 4 teams. That's never happened before. Now we're in the AL West. This division, I don't have the Astros one. I have the A's one because they've won back-to-back seasons with 97 wins. The A's, the A's don't have like those superstars that are going to blow your mind, but they play team baseball. They get the wins. Their starting lineup looks like Simeon, Loreno, Chapman, Olson, Davis, Mark Hanna, Stephen Piscotty, Sean Murphy, and Anthony Kemp.
Simeon almost won the MVP last year.
Right.
Top 3 in the MVP voting last year. So, he's doesn't get a whole lot of credit. I don't think really anybody on the A's gets a whole lot of credit. But
no, I mean, Chapman's probably the best third. He's the best third baseman in the AL with his glove. His glove is ridiculous. And he can hit. Matt Olson hits bombs. Is Chris Davis going to be able to have a better season than he did last year? Struck out a lot, couldn't get on base. Mr. 247. Will he get back to the same consistency that he has, or is he going to be going?
Doesn't he just have to hit? He just has to hit 247. He was really bad last year. I mean, you're used to that guy hitting 40 home runs, driving in over 90 runs. He was lost last year. So if
they still won 97 games.
Yeah, and and it's not like they blow you away with the rotation either. The early 2000s teams had those great rotations. They don't really blow you away there either. They're just good. They always seem to be in. They're in it every year. It seems like they just never do any damage in the playoffs.
And they're one of those teams every year. They might start slow, but they'll especially this year, they might lose. They might go 3-10. But with the A's, after that they might win the next 80% of their games for the rest of the season. They're very good at not playing well, and then they win 20 in a row, and you're like, whoa, the A's are now in second place in the West and they're last. Where's this coming from? They'll
be 3-10 2 weeks in the season. People start writing them off, and then they'll win 36 games for the year. And you're like, wait a second, how did they just go 33-14 the rest of the way? Something crazy like that.
Their rotation. I mean, it's Frankie Montas. I mean, I'm glad to see what he's going to be able to do coming back from steroid ban. Sean Manaea, Mike Friars, whistleblower, Chris Bassett, and then they have Daniel Megan. He's hurt. It's not a great pitching rotation. It's an okay one. It's not one where I'd bet the house on, but their bullpen solid. You got Hendricks, Petit, Joaquin Sora, Jesus Lazaro, who's probably going to end up actually being a starter. I think he's going to take Daniel's job since he's hurt. I mean, they've got a good Lou Trevino, Jake Dykman. Their bullpen's solid. It's probably one of the better bullpens we've looked at so far.
Out of everything we've seen, probably I would say that they're at the top at this point of what we've looked at. Yeah.
Then do you have Houston at 2?
I don't.
Oh, who do you have at 2?
I have the Angels at 2.
Why do you have the Angels at 2? I have Houston at 2.
I mean, this was similar. I had the Astros at 2, and I said, you know what? I'm going to flip it. I'm going to take the Angels. I just think that I think with this whole cheating scandal with the Astros, I just think that teams are going to be gunning for them. I think, that happens all the time, but I just think that there's going to be a bullseye team that's just going to want to take them out. And I'm not telling you, just beat them.
I think they're going to get hit. I think people are going to slide into second real hard to take out Altuve and Correa. I mean, Correa's hard to take out. He's 6'4". I mean, he's a beast of a man. So funny. They have 6'4" and 5'7".
Yeah. They have Verlander and they have, their rotation is great.
Their rotation's better than, I would say, the Angels. The Angels starting lineup, it's so good.
The problem with the Angels though is when is Rendon ready? Because he's not playing yet. But they didn't put him on the DL though, so that's kind of.
They have him in the opening day lineup, so they have La Stella, Trout, Rendon, Shohei, Albert, Justin Upton, Brian Goodwin, Simmons, and Jason Castro. La Stella's I like Tommy La Stella. He hits the ball well, gets on base. Mike Trout's the greatest. He's the greatest player in baseball. There's no argument on that. Is Trout gonna win the MVP? Is he gonna be able to have a great season like he usually has? I mean, because he's always consistent. He doesn't blow up one month. It's just the same guy every game after game. He's gonna make the catch. He's gonna hit the ball. Rendon, I think they're sleeper. I think if Anthony plays really well, this team's gonna be really good. If Anthony plays really bad, they don't. I mean, David Fletcher comes and plays the 3 bag for him.
But has Rendon been bad ever?
No, I don't think so.
He's been so good for 3 or 4 years. He's been so good that and then you have Trout hitting in front of him.
Yeah, you have Trout hitting Q.
He's just going to be.
In what world does Mike Trout hit Q? Like, how crazy is that? Because Rendon's gonna, his Trout's faster and stuff. Then you got Shohei. Shohei is that one where I like this. I like that he's gonna pitch every 6 days, and then he's gonna DH. I think 3 of the 4.
Right. He's not gonna DH the day before and the day after he starts.
The day after. And then you got
so Shohei's gonna. Didn't they say he's gonna pitch like every Sunday, right?
Yeah, he's gonna pitch every Sunday.
It looks like how the schedule shook out for them, that there's a lot of days off for them on Mondays, so they're not going to lose his bat on those days on Mondays.
That's a big bet.
But so let's just say hypothetically, 2 weeks, 3 weeks left in the season, and they were talking about this today on MLB. What happens when they need an inning for him and it's a Thursday? Are they going to let him go out and throw an inning? If it's about making the playoffs or not, like, do you throw that weapon out there?
If you want to win, I think so. It depends on how bad the Angels want to win. I definitely think that's where it goes. I mean, yeah, they have a lot of money invested in them, but Mike Trout's never made the playoffs. He might go down as
He made it once.
Once? Did he make it once? Early in his career. So he's made the playoff once. And he might be the greatest baseball player that we've ever seen. And he might very well not get a ring with the Angels because the ALS is just that good. Pujols on the downside of his career. He shows that he still has old Albert in him. The guy's coming around 40. Justin Upton is consistent. Then we're going into their pitching. Their pitching's okay.
It's weak. Let's be honest. It's weak.
When Andrew Heaney's your ace, because you can't call Shohei Ohtani an ace when he's only pitching every 6th day.
Right.
And they're gonna keep him coming back from TJ. He's gonna have a pitch count. How tight are they gonna be on him? Are they gonna be like super tight like the Nats were with Strasburg, where they're like in a playoff run and just go, nope, you're done.
You're done. Well, you're gonna get a chance to win the World Series. You're done.
You're done. I don't really like that at all. Dylan Bundy. I mean, he's terrible. I wouldn't say he's terrible.
When Bundy first came up, though, when Baltimore was decent a couple years ago, when they made those runs, he was pretty good.
And he was.
When the talent around him was bad, he was bad. Maybe he'll rise up a little bit with the talent that's around him. With Trout and Rendon and Pujols.
And the attitude. I mean, just seeing on TV, I think Mike Trout is the guy that we're used to seeing. Ooh, Justin Turner just made an error. I just saw that looking at the Dodgers game. Dustin May's hair is crazy. Yeah. I'm excited to see what that kid's gonna do. But going on over to the Astros. You have Astros 3?
I do, yeah.
They have a solid lineup. It's the same lineup we've been seeing for the last 4 or 5 years. Springer, Altuve, Bregman, Brantley, Gurriel, Reddick, Correa, Tucker, Maldonado. This team hasn't changed from last year that much at all. Their starters, they got a little bit better because of McCullers, but he hasn't pitched in 18 months. Zach Greinke's a stud, and then you got.
We also lost Cole.
Yeah, you lost Cole. That's a big thing.
You lost Cole.
McCullers
and you lost Cole to a rival.
Right, you lost him to the Yankees, and we'll get into those damn Yankees. I don't like that. As a diehard Mariners fan, I do not like the Astros. I don't like the organization, especially when they came out being cheaters. I hope they end up in last place and just get what they deserve. I don't even really want to talk about them. That's how much I hate them.
The only guy on the Astros that I care for is Alvarez.
I like Brantley.
I think he's a stud.
But he's not even – he might not even play this year.
No, he's on the injured list. So, yeah, nobody knows why. Yeah, it's undisclosed. I don't know if he's sick, if he can't get here, or what's going on. But he's not playing right now. So that's
all your Astros
That's
fans.
a huge loss if they don't have that guy.
Yeah, he's another guy. He's a power bat. He strikes out a lot though, but I like this. I like this Rangers team. I have Rangers 4. Unfortunately, I have my Mariners
I have
last.
the Rangers 4 also. Sorry.
This Rangers team, their lineup's okay. I mean, you got Chu, Calhoun, Danny Santana, Gallo, Order, Frazier, and Elvis Andrus. I'm not even saying that right. Robinson Chirinos and Kiner Falafa. Gosh, why does this team have to have like the hardest names to pronounce?
They're the best thing going for them, I think, is their rotation, and you
That's
never say that about the Rangers.
no, that starting rotation's sexy. It's
That's so that's another team that you look and you're like but if they finish second in the division, I wouldn't be surprised. They have the new stadium. It would be more exciting for them if they had a new stadium with fans, but
that sucks. Opening up a brand new ballpark.
But the rotation, Lance Lynn, is a workhorse. He throws a ton of innings.
He's nasty. He's mean
so
too. I love it.
They're not bad. With their starting rotation, they match up, I would say, much better than the Angels do. Probably on par with the A's. I think we would agree that the Astros have the best rotation in the division.
Yeah.
Just because of Verlander and Greinke. But
the Corey Kluber, a former Cy Young winner, Mike Miners, he's a good lefty. He throws that nasty high change.
Mike Miner's been great the last 2 or 3 years. He's been outstanding. And then if Kluber is 80% of what he was 2 or 3 years ago, you have the makings of a very, very good starting 5.
Yeah, you got Kyle Gibson and Jordan Lyles. Those guys are proven guys as well who have been consistent in the league. I was shocked when I looked at their starting 5, and I was like, oh my gosh. And their bullpen's not terrible. You got Jose Leclerc, who they think is going to come in and shut down the 9th. And he throws super hard. Jesse Chavez, Kobe Allard, Nick Goody. Who's the kid? And then Cody Allen. That's my surprise. Like, are we going to see the Cody Allen that we saw with the Indians, or is he going to still be this blow-up nightmare?
Yeah, you never coming in, couldn't get an out.
Yeah.
When he was with the Angels. I think that kind of started at the tail end of his Indians career. He couldn't get guys out. No, they're not bad. Their question is their lineup, and you've never really said that about the Rangers in the past, but their rotation, I think, has kind of jumped ahead of their lineup.
Yeah, their lineup. Gallo's going to hit bombs, but I don't like Gallo. I like Gallo's for the fact that when he hits the ball, you're like, I've never seen a human being hit a ball this hard. But at the same time, he gets out all the time. He strikes out.
Seems like he gets hurt a lot too.
Gets hurt a lot. He's a big boy.
Yeah, I would love for them to be ahead of the Astros.
I would love if the Astros ended up in last place. We're going into the last place team, the Seattle Mariners. My Seattle Mariners. This team is not ready yet. But I tell you, in a year or two, this will be the team that's competing for the number 1 spot. Their lineup right now: Shed Long, J.P. Crawford, Kyle Seager. We don't really know who's going to catch because Tom Murphy actually is hurt for the season. Got Dan Vogelbach, Kyle Lewis, Jake Fraley, Evan White, and Alex Smith. I think Evan White's going to be the AL MVP. Kid can hit the ball really well. He plays a.
Well, you didn't say MVP.
Not MVP. I mean Rookie of the Year. Been talking for almost an hour and a half. My brain's loopy. I think he could be, and that's me being a homer. I've watched a lot of their inner squad. J.P. Crawford can't really hit. He plays great.
All about J.P. Crawford.
Yeah, all about him. He can't hit, but the guy can field. It's a great shortstop. Yeah, Kyle Seager's old. He is what it is. Daniel Vogelbach sometimes can hit the ball if he wants. But the youth with Kyle Lewis, Evan White, and then are we going to see like Jared Kelenic? Julio Rodriguez has a broken wrist. The youth movement they have going on is pretty great. Their rotations, it's bad. Marco Gonzalez, he's not an ace. He's a 3 or 4. Taijuan Walker hasn't pitched in nearly 2 years. He's supposed to be this, great thing coming up, but he hasn't done. He's been injured. Yusei Kikuchi, He was supposed to be the guy. He can't get anything going. Kendall Graveman's another guy who hasn't pitched in the year because of injuries. Justice Sheffield, the Yankees and Indians, all about him. He's supposed to be an absolute stud, and he just can't put it together. This Mariners team, as a homer, I want to say they can surprise people with the youth. That might happen, but Mitch might not play for the rest of the year. He's on the $45 million DL. Tom Murphy's out, so you're looking at Austin Nola. And then you might have Cal Rafe come up. That's their top catching prospect. So I want to see the youth get used a little bit, but then I don't want to see it get used too much. I don't want Jared Kelenic coming in just to come in and then getting crappy at bats because he only had 29 at bats in Double-A last year.
Yeah,
I mean, I think he's still a year out.
You're gonna know more. Yeah, you're gonna know more about what's going on with them. But I just don't think that they risk calling those guys up. And
I don't like it
if
at all.
If they struggle, then you might, you're damaging their. It's probably not worth it because they're similar to the Pirates and the Marlins. They're just not ready to compete in the division.
From my inside information from Dave Sims, he says it's not happening. We're going to see the Mariners be the Mariners. They might win 20 games and they'll lose 40. I mean, that's just how it is in Seattle. At this point, I'm not about wins or losses. I just like watching baseball and seeing the craziness of what happens in Seattle. I mean, I've been able to watch 2 perfect games because you had Humber throw one and then you had King Felix throw one. Seattle's been to the playoffs 4 times in 43 years. It's just what it is. We'll go over to the AL Central. I think this is I think we probably have it the same. Who do you got 1?
I have the Indians.
Whoa! I have them 3rd. I have Twins 1, White Sox 2.
And the only reason I took the Indians 1 is I think that their rotation, I think their pitching is the best. And they still have Lindor, and they still have Ramirez. So they still, their lineup is not what it was when they went to the World Series. But I still think that they're
– not a terrible lineup.
I think people love the Twins. They won 100 games last year. They improved their pitching staff by bringing in Rich Hill and Homer Bailey. I mean, are they huge upgrades to what they had last year? I mean, yeah, the Twins are going to score a lot of runs. The White Sox will probably be a lot of fun. I just think the Indians, I think they have the best manager in the division. And I think they have the best rotation in the division. And I think in 60 games, in a 60-game season, I think Francona can manipulate a couple wins that otherwise they might have not gotten. I think he might be able to steal a win or 2. It might be a 33, 34-win team. But they're going to be those 3. The Twins and Indians will be very close. I think the White Sox are a little bit below them. But Bieber and Clevenger, I think, are arguably, with Giolito, probably the 3 best pitchers in that division. So I think that when you have two of the best pitchers in the division, that's going to help you to try to win it.
Their question mark is Franmil Reyes going to be the stud that they've been hoping for? Is he going to hit those home runs and get those runners in? They have him hitting 5th behind Carlos Santana. Then you have, their lineup, let me run through it real quick, is Cesar Hernandez, Jose Ramirez, Frankie Lindor, who's probably the funnest baseball player in the AL. I love his smile.
Yeah, he's a great player too. He's a great player. He's going to look great in Phillies pinstripes in 2 years.
You think that's where he's gonna go? Get rid of Didi?
I'm just hoping that'd be great. But
then they got Reyes, Naquin, Oscar Mercado. I like Oscar Mercado a lot. That kid is. I was listening to his interview on Talking Baseball. I like his attitude. I think he's a Cleveland guy. He's a huge LeBron James fan. He definitely their predicted average for him is a 257. His OPS is projected at a 713. He's more of an outfield guy, and then round out the bottom of the lineup is Perez and Bradley Zimmerman. Their bullpen's not terrible. You got Brad Hand and all that stuff. I still have them as a 3. I just think I don't know. I don't think they have enough bats with how many runs the Twins can put up. I mean, I'm gonna go into this Twins lineup. This Twins lineup is crazy. Deep. Just the power. It's deep. I mean,
they said the record last year was 306 home runs as a team.
Right, and now you're adding Josh Donaldson at 3rd, and Eddie and Nelson Cruz. He already always gets the DH, but now when he goes and plays NL teams, he gets the DH.
Yeah, he gets to be in the lineup every day.
Yeah, every day, and that's all he wants to do. You don't want to put him in the outfield. You got Max Kepler, Jorge Polanco, Nelson Cruz, Josh Donaldson, Eddie Rosario, Mitch Garver, Luis. How do you say it? Arez. Miguel
You
Sano's
love
hurt.
him.
And I love him. I'm about to get right into him. Byron Buxton. I think Luis is going to be the MVP. The guy, and I think he's going to hit 400. Actually, I guarantee he's going to hit 400. Out of anybody
Wow.
who's going to do it this year, it's going to be him. He's been a consistent bat for the last couple of years. He's a young guy, especially hitting deeper in this lineup. The pitchers are going to be so worn out after you have to face Kepler, Polanco, Cruz, and Donaldson. And don't forget Eddie Rosario. And he's hitting seventh, where I think in most lineups he would hit two or three. This lineup stacked. My big thing is going to be their pitching. Their pitching is my biggest question mark. It looks good on paper, but we've seen all five of these guys struggle. And Jake Ortiz, he's on the DL right now. So you got Berrios, Hill, Quintanilla, Odorizzi's hurt, and you got Homer Bailey. We've seen these guys all pitch really well, and we've seen them have years where you're like, how are they in the MLB still?
Right.
And their bullpen and their bullpen's questionable.
And let me just if you look at the lineup, are they scoring runs if they're not hitting home runs? Are they so reliant on the home run where,
they have no their fastest player is hitting ninth. Everybody else is. I mean, Kepler has some athletic ability, but Polanco, Cruz, Donaldson. I mean, Rosario's decent athletic. Garver, Alvarez is athletic. Miguel Sano can't even run. And so that's where I don't like that team. Their bullpen's pretty decent. I said it was bad earlier. Then I looked at it and I remember they've got some good young arms. Their depth is, I think, where it could come into play for them. Because you have Marwin Gonzalez, Alex Avila, Jake Cave. Those are all really good bats. You got Nick Gordon waiting down in the minors. They definitely, I think, have a chance to take the division. Especially when you have to play the Tigers and the Royals 10 times.
And you play the Pirates right here 4 times too.
A handful of times. But the White Sox, man. The White Sox is the one where I want to put one because I love this team.
They're going to be a lot of fun.
They're going to be a lot of fun. They're going to be that team that's either going to be number one in the division, or they're going to be absolute crap in the division. But I like Tim Anderson. I think Tim Anderson could win another batting title. You got Moncada's hurt. Jose Abreu's been a stud. He has Marnie Grandal was their big signing at catcher, such hitting catcher. Then you got Edwin Encarnacion, another big signing. You got, and then their outfield. I just hit it and it got me excited. Eloy Jimenez
hitting sixth.
Hitting sixth, and then Robert is hitting eighth. Hitting seventh, and then Lori Garcia is hitting eighth, and then you got Adam Engel ninth, where I think that's where Engel will hit. It has to hit. Robert's going to be the rookie of the year. What we've seen from this kid, the big catches he's making in center field, on top of those bombs, not just like home runs. They were
he has been very exciting, right? You've been excited to watch him, and then on a different topic, you see what his people in the hobby are doing with him. It's unbelievable, and
his gold card, his top series gold rookie. Because I saw somebody was offering a Juan Soto rookie auto.
Well, how about? I mean, we're off a little bit off topic, but how about the fact that Soto and Acuna are younger than him?
Right. But
he's getting this incredible pub because he's just hitting bombs.
And I think a lot of it is the hobby's definitely jumped up. But I digress. Back into it. The thing is they're starters. Got Giolito, you got Dallas, Keuchel, Lopez, Dylan Cease, and Gio Gonzalez. Two of those guys have pitched deep into the playoffs and have won World Series. You got Gio who's done it, and you got Dallas who's done it. Dallas hasn't pitched well in a while, but can he come back from where he was 2 years ago? Because he was terrible last year. Gio's kind of consistent. We haven't seen much from Dylan Cease. I like this team, man. I think this team I think this team could be really good, especially next year. Especially,
I think next year, another year for Robert if he's what he is, and another year for Eloy.
They're just not.
Again, they're the same thing. If that team wins the division, are you surprised? No, you're not surprised because they have a lot of talent. They have a lot of young talent.
Unproven young talent.
And they have that guy. They have the second baseman, Nick Madrigal.
Who's not even on their lineup.
Who's not on the lineup? Who plays a good second base and hits everything. He puts every ball in play. So you add him to that lineup, it's just more depth if he gets the call. And he's a guy I think that if you think you have a shot, maybe you wait those 6 or 7 days and you call him up and you put him at second base if you think he's better than what you have. Because it's just another guy getting on. If he's getting on base in front of all these bats, it's just.
Yeah, and I mean they're gonna run through the Tigers and the Royals. I'm on the Tigers page because I really didn't even. I put the Tigers and the Royals tied for fifth because it could go either way for these teams.
Yeah, I had the Royals fourth and the Tigers fifth.
I think they're both bad. I'm looking at the Tigers. Just for the fans, I'm going to go through it really quick. We're not going to spend much time on these teams because I think we're going to talk a lot about the AL East. You got Goodrum, Shope, Miggy. I think it's time for Miggy to go. I think it's time to hang it up.
He's got to get 3,000 hits first.
How close is he?
He's about 180 away.
Okay, so 2 more years because you're not going to get 180 this year. CJ Crone, Candiello, Stewart, Maben, Romine, Jacoby Jones. I don't like any of that. Their starters are Boyd, Nova, Turnbull, Alexander, Fulmer's hurt, and Daniel Norris is hurt. And I'm not even looking at their bullpen. I don't really have anything to say about the Tigers because I don't think they're going to be any good. They don't.
The only thing you can say about the Tigers is when they have 3 stud pitchers in the minors. And they're not going to waste those guys this year, but they got Casey Mize, they have Scooble, and they have Matt Manning. So when those guys are ready to come up, if they can put together any semblance of a lineup in the field, they have some pitchers. You got to be. Then I think they're really excited about Riley Green too.
Right.
So there's some talent in the minors. They're just. I'm looking at the paper. The Orioles are probably the worst team in baseball, but they're not much better than the Orioles.
No, and then looking at the Royals, you got Whit Merrifield, Mondesi, Jorge Soler, Alex Gordon, Perez is hurt. You got Franco, which you know all about Franco. Franchi Condoro, Ryan McBroom, and Nicky Lopez. And then their starters are Danny Duffy, Brady Singer, Mike Montgomery, Jorge Lopez, Glenn Sparkman, and Jake Junis, but he's hurt.
And that's a far cry from the team that won the World Series a couple of years ago, huh?
I mean, I like their 1 and 2. I like Merrifield and I like Mondesi. And Jorge Soler can hit the crap out of the ball, but the rest of it's just – and the other one be sitting on the bench.
The only thing I have to say about the Royals is I guess he got released by the team, but their backup catcher last year at the end of the season was one of my former students, so that's pretty cool.
Who was it?
Nick Deeney.
Oh, really? That's dope.
Yeah, he was one of my former students.
And so is Matt Thias, right?
I didn't have – he's from my hometown. He graduated from the high school I went to. But the other Nick Deeney was one of my students when he was in, I don't remember, 7th grade, 8th grade, 9th grade. So I had him in class. It's pretty cool when I could say to my students that, hey, so-and-so was in my class.
You teach high school, right?
Yeah.
Nice. And history, right?
Yeah. Yep.
I know. That was the only class I was actually good at. The rest of it I hated. PE. I love PE. We're going into the East.
Oh, that was the best class.
Oh,
my favorite class. My favorite class was lunch.
Lunch. Hey, yeah. We're big boys. We like lunch. I got steak waiting for me. I got it.
Oh, you gotta get to eat.
I know. I mean, it's early in my time. It's getting late for you. What are we looking at? We got bottom second, Giants, Dodgers. What do you think of, before we go into the East, what do you think about Mookie Betts' big contract? They're signing players almost 40. I don't like these contracts.
I guess, but it's the going rate. If you like the player and you know,
We've seen how bad they are. Look at Alex Rodriguez. Look at Albert Pujols. The first two guys that do it.
Yeah, but I feel like that those guys got that that was like their second contract. Like this is Betts' first contract,
right? Because of all the service time.
And then he was making $30 million a year in arbitration, right? So you're gonna have to pay him that rate. I go back to the Phillies because that's the team I know the most about. But they were ripping 13 years, $330 million for Harper. Well, the average comes out to be significantly less than some of these other guys are getting.
Well, Harper's still extremely young. People forget about that. Harper's not that old.
Yeah, he's 27, 28, 27.
No, he's 27. He's a year younger than I am.
So like 13 years for him. Well, now we're 12 years left. If he still got 6 years of solid baseball left at $24 million, and think about the going rate for some of these other players.
Look at Mike Trout. Mike Trout feels ridiculous.
$465 million.
Yeah, it's like almost 40 a year.
So this is the going rate for these guys. So what does Lindor's contract look like? When Soto's a free agent, what is that contract going to look like? In 5 or 6 years, you're going to be talking, and he's 21 years old. What is that contract? When he's 27 years old on the open market, what does that contract look like? Is he a $500 million player? I mean, is that where we're going to be?
I don't think any of them. I think the only one who's worth $500 million is Trout, and I don't even think he's worth that because it's so much money. But let's go into the AL East. I've got the Rays number 1. I think they're the best team in baseball because they have the best bullpen in baseball.
I have the
Not
Rays
best bullpen.
1,
I mean,
so.
best. They're the best starting line.
Rotation.
Starting rotation.
I have the Rays number 1 too.
I mean, their lineups. I'm not in love with their lineup. They got Choi Diaz. Oh my God, so I can't even say it. Some name that I'm not even going to try to pronounce. Hunter Renfroe, Brandon Lowe, Willie Adames, Kevin Kiermaier, Manny Margot, and Mike Zunino. I know a lot about Zunino. Zunino's going to either hit the ball, he's not going to hit the ball.
He's going to hit 200. He's going to hit a whole bunch of. He's going to hit long ones, right? And there was a name on that list. There was a name that you didn't mention because he's not starting the season. But don't forget Austin Meadows too.
Right. Austin Meadows.
So
that's their guy.
And the thing with Tampa that's interesting is they're so creative. So they're gonna they were experimenting the other day with, and the Yankees did it too, but they brought in Margot, who can play center field, but they're going to move him, to one of the corners. 5 infielders, and just have him and Kiermaier in the outfield because those two can cover so much ground. So when they have, when they have their sinker ball pitchers going, we're going to play 5 infielders, get the ball past us. If you hit it in the air, we have 2 guys out there that we think can make a play on the ball. So the creativity that they have, their starting rotation with Morton and Snell and Glasnow, and then then they're going to do the opener with and who's going to be where. You never know what you're going to get, but there's just something about
and Trevor Richards.
In this kind of season, I feel like it plays right into the hands of what they've been doing for the last 4 or 5 years.
No, exactly. And Renfroe they're going to hit the crap out of a baseball.
They're going to platoon guys all over the field. Play matchups. It's what they do. That's because they're their payroll is probably $150 million less than the Yankees. They're gonna have to come up with creative ways to beat them, and that's part of what they've done. So I have them winning the division, and if the Yankees beat them, then I wouldn't be surprised. But
no.
The Rays are.
I'm looking at this Yankees lineup. This lineup is so scary. And I mean, my MVP pick was going to be DJ LeMahieu. I thought he could hit 400. The guy hits anything that comes. But he's got COVID and he's out. And he got Judgy, Torres, Stanton, Hicks, Sanchez, Voit, Gardner, and Giovanni Urshela. That didn't that lineup is terrifying.
But and that's the one thing, they're like the Dodgers and like the Phillies you're talking about, they're gonna score a ton of runs.
The starting
After Cole,
pitching.
though, after Cole and even Tanaka, you have questions about what they have in the rotation.
Paxton's not terrible. I mean, he had two good
He's
years in
not.
Seattle.
But he could go out tomorrow and get hurt because
Yeah.
that seems to be his MO. He's hurt all the time. Their bullpen is solid. You know, they got Chapman and Britton. They're the Yankees.
Yeah.
There's not going to be a lot of weaknesses, and they're going to have the ability that if come August 30th with the trade deadline, they're going to be able to make a deal. You know, the trade deadline, the day before the trade deadline, to solidify any holes that they may have. And there's not going to be a hole in the lineup, but
I
Stanton's
wonder
hurt all the time.
how the trade deadline's going to work, because are they going to have to quarantine for 2 weeks? Like, how's that going to work with you going from a different team?
I guess as long as you're passing the test, I would imagine probably.
Yeah, you'd be fine.
We don't know. I mean, I guess we'd have to wait and see what those rules look like.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I have them too, but if they won the division, because Garrett Cole was unreal for his dozen or so starts, I wouldn't be surprised.
I think this is probably the weakest division out of the three of them. I mean, Boston, I'm not impressed with. I actually have Boston fourth. I have Toronto three. I'm looking at just Boston right now. I mean, Benintelli, Martinez, Devers, Bogarts, Moreland, Vasquez, Verdugo, Jackie Bradley Jr., and Jose Perez. The lineup's solid right there, but then they don't have – their pitching is terrible.
Their pitching stinks.
I mean, Evaldi's good, actually. Evaldi, I like him better out of the bullpen. He throws the ball a lot harder, but losing why can't I think of his name? It's
Chris Sale.
Yeah, no Chris Sale. And you don't have Rodriguez either.
All right.
Perez, Webbs, Johnson, Hall. The only name I know is Evaldi, and I watch baseball. I mean, I'm just not – the Red Sox are a far cry from where they were 2 years ago.
Yeah, but the only reason I have the Red Sox 3.
Okay.
And the only reason I put them 3 is over the Blue Jays is because right now the Blue Jays don't have a stadium.
They're going to be playing in Pittsburgh, what I saw.
No, the Pennsylvania governor said no. He didn't want to bring more people in. So they're looking right now at Baltimore, but Maryland's government hasn't approved it. There has been also some talk. I guess their first two series are on the road, so it doesn't really affect them for like the first week. But they've been talking about it. How about if the Blue Jays just play every game on the road, but when they're supposed to be the home team, they would be the home team on the road, as the road team.
Right.
So not having a place to play, and you're traveling to every single game. If that were the case, that's going to be. I know you're traveling the same time zone, so it makes it a little easier. But if you're going, you have 3 games in New York, and then you have to go and play 3 games in Miami, and then your next series, you're supposed to be home for the Miami series and the Philly series, and you got to travel from New York to Miami to Philly, and you're constantly traveling. That's going to be that's difficult, especially for a young team like that. It's a very young team. I know there's been a lot of talk about the manager, and how he's like very adaptable and things like that. But you're talking about Vlad and Bichette and Biggio, Gurriel. They're young guys. Like, oh, by the way, you're going to be playing 3 games here and 3 games there. I think that's a lot for any team to overcome.
To deal with. Plus, you have Shaw, Grichuk, Tellez. Tellez is another young guy. Teoscar Hernandez and Danny Jansen. Their pitching is what it is. I don't think it's great. I don't think it's terrible. You got Hyun-Jin Ryu, Matt Shoemaker, Tanner Roack, Trent Thornton, and Ryan Barucki. I think Barucki's the big guy that they're wanting to see what he'll be able to do, because he's a young arm.
And if Ryu is what he was the first half of the year for the Dodgers to start the All-Star game, that's a big get for them. But they don't have enough for me. For me, they don't have enough to overcome the Yankees and the Rays, and the Red Sox. The Red Sox could implode and be awful. But I think their 1 through 4 in their lineup is pretty good. And the Blue Jays, we mentioned those names. They might be about a year or 2 away.
They're
going to be like the White Sox. That are going to be very fun to watch.
And then you got
Bo and Vlad.
No, exactly. They've got a lot of young talent, and you got Ken Giles closing it out. Their bullpen's not bad. Their pitching's going to be questionable, and those young hitters, can they travel? I mean, the good thing when you're in the East, it's not like being out in the West. For when you're in Seattle, every travel day is a 3 to 5 hour flight.
Right.
Most of the time you can just jump on a train. All right, that's what I was reading. Going over to the Orioles, this is the worst team in baseball. You got Hayes, Iglesias, Santana, Nunez, Davis, Alberto, Ruiz, Pedro Salvino, DJ Stewart. Then their pitching is Tommy Malone, Alex Cobb, Wade LeBlanc, Asher Wojnarowski, John Means. I was excited to see John Means, but now he's hurt. I'm happy that Tommy Malone is getting the start for a big league team. He's been out of bullpens with he pitched for the A's, been a bullpen guy for a long time, and then I think that's probably one of the better stories in baseball. But other than this, Chris Davis sucks. Iglesias is the best player.
They're bad.
This team's bad.
But you know what, Joe? Just for the sake of Baltimore, I hope Davis is decent and it hits 16 home runs. They're unwatchable. Does Chris Davis hit more home runs than they win games?
No.
How many games do they win? How many games does that team win?
15.
Playing the Rays, the Yankees, the Red Sox, the Blue Jays, the Phillies, the Mets, the Braves, the Nationals. It's like that's
5. Maybe 3 or 4. I don't even know. It's baseball though. I mean, I say no less than 10. I would take if it was 10, I'd take the over because they get to play the Marlins.
Yeah. I mean, that's like the team like you look at the schedule all right, like you can't miss the playoffs because you lost to the Orioles twice. Like if you're a National League East team and you go and you play the Orioles, 4 times and you lose them 3 times, you shouldn't make the playoffs.
No.
And I know it's going to be the Phillies that are going to lose the games to the Orioles. I just know it's going to happen. And you're going to be like, what the hell, man? And it's going to be like, we missed the playoffs by a game, but we lost the Orioles 3 times. Like that can't be why you missed the playoffs because you lost
the Orioles they're bad. So to finish up the show, I got my awards. My AL MVP is Luis Arias. AL Cy Young's Garrett Cole. Did we even cover Garrett Cole in New York when we talked? Yeah, we talked about Cole. My Rookie of the Year is Evan White. My NL MVP is Yelly. Cy Young's DeGrom. Rookie of the Year was Gavin Lux, but I changed that over. Who did I say? I forgot. I'm going to say Nico Horner now. I think Nico Horner can do it. But it was somebody else. I'm totally, blanking on it. Who do you got for your awards?
All right, so my American League MVP, I went Matt Chapman.
Okay, I see that.
My Cy Young, I went out left field. I took Nick Anderson, the relief pitcher for Tampa Bay.
We didn't even talk about him.
The Swiss Army knife kind of guy. I just think he's going to be pitched wherever they need him, and he's going to be like Josh Hader was, and I think in an abbreviated season. A guy like that can be very valuable to a team. My Rookie of the Year is Luis Robert. My Manager of the Year is Kevin Cash. My MVP in the National League, homer pick, I'm going Bryce Harper. My Cy Young is DeGrom. My Rookie of the Year, Shogo Akiyama. For my Manager of the Year is David Bell. And my Comeback Player of the Year overall is going to be Corey Kluber. He's going to do some big things in Texas. And my World Series, I think we went over who's going to make the playoffs, but I think my World Series, I'm going to take the Rays over the Dodgers.
All right, I have Rays over the Cardinals. Just because if the Cardinals get in, you never know what they're going to do in October. That team it's like they flip a switch, and all of a sudden Carpenter can't hit it during the season, and then he has 4 bombs going off.
Right.
I mean, Paul Goldschmidt, he has to get his bat going. We'll see if that happens. But other than that, I think we really had a lot of the same teams' opinions. My team that I think no one sees coming is the Mariners because I'm an absolute homer. But to finish out the show, John, you got anything to say or promote? Thank you for coming on last second and everything.
I had fun. It's the first time I ever did anything like this, so it was cool talking baseball with somebody.
This is our longest episode. We're almost 2 hours in.
So it was fun, just being able to talk about my favorite sport. It's been my favorite sport my whole life. But it's and talking to you face to face.
Yeah.
After 5 or 6 months, this is the first time I've ever seen each other face to face. That's pretty cool too. So
and he's a guy I would say if anybody asks who's your best friend, I would say it's John. The guy he's genuinely one of the nicest people I've ever met. Anytime I'm like, John, I want this card. And I'm just saying I want it. I'm not like, John, go buy it for me. We see other people in the hobby that do that. John just comes out of nowhere, and I get a mail day, and I'm like, what the fuck? And I type him up. I'm like, you motherfucker, why did that come? like I'm grateful completely, but that's just the person John is. He's always buying people breaks, rack spot, throwing racks. I mean, he keeps my rack thread going like by himself if I didn't run it on Mondays. But anyways, everybody, thank you so much for coming on, for listening. Thank you, John, for coming on. And everybody, this is Just Mitchin, and have a great day.